Hey, what's up? Just tapping in with the video quick, and I want to start this one asking for something. Is that so I said in another video that a lot of times according to the spiritual leader from India, I think his name was Swami Vivekananda, popular around the time of the late 19th and early 20th century in India and in the West, and he's credited with maybe bringing the tradition and faith of Hinduism to the world stage, to be respected on the world stage as a world religion. Some of that came to be from him, and then we could maybe reason that some of the popularity, but also the respect of things like yoga or traditions in the East in general, maybe even Buddhism, could have benefited from some of his work. If we look at the culture of tolerance around faith and teaching of different kinds. I've been and actually to that point, I was reading one of his books, and he has a book called Yoga, and then like the four kinds of yoga, like Bhakti, Raha, Kriya, and Jhana, and that's on the title. But I was actually reading that book on a base about 3 years ago when I was being trained for my CDL on my brakes, and a person there, a person of faith that's from the area where I am. They actually had a problem with me reading that book, and they were warned. So me as a grown man, an adult, warning me about reading a book that I had actually paid for in a store, like just a regular book that I bought in a store, warning me about that, cautioning me about opening my mind and learning something. Some people might feel the same way as that person, but some people might say that can speak to a lot of things. This person was the same ethnicity as me, but that can speak to things about our history, like in the United States, like who actually does have so that can do with status, because I've said in other videos that maybe what we call white and black, according to Tashriq Bey, those are actually legal designations as part of a caste system going back in the United States. That has to do with the ability to make decisions for ourselves. That is, and not the least of which, to read, write, and then the different privileges that would come with that, including voting and holding and enjoying property and being entitled to property. A lot of our ability to say anything has to do with property. So you start saying something, well, whose house are you at? Whose sidewalk are you at? Whose business are you at? Whose car are you in? Is this your car? A lot of this is going to have to do with property, what you can and can't say, what you can and can't do. Who does have say so? I was at a franchise recently, and I had in the other video I had the blonde extensions like that, and some people were actually having a discussion when I walked away about what is straight hair, what is curly hair, what is ethnicity, and then I was pointing out to them, and they were I made a joke about something completely different, and they're like, yeah, but I'm the boss, and then they were talking about ethnicity like that, and I was saying that all people are all things, and all people are all people, and all people are all things. But with some people, with your heritage, that might the diversity of your heritage might be more apparent in your appearance, which all heritage is diversity. But all I meant to say is that some people, like maybe myself, that have it might be difficult to lay a finger on ethnicity. We can struggle being accepted and accepting ourselves, which is the real acceptance with being accepted. But it's just that we're all dynamic, and this reality is unified and diverse at the same time, and more unified for being diverse and more diverse for being unified. But for some of us, that can maybe work to our favor or not, as other people appreciate that or can comprehend that, and then as we comprehend ourselves in our experience of other people. And that didn't fly over well where I was at when I tried to say something like that. But if you are going to define what ethnicity is or what heritage is publicly in a public venue for yourself and for other people hearing you, then I think that we can chip in our 2 cents if something refers to us. But all I meant to say is that in that sense, what is still at standing is the property. So whose property am I standing on? Now you could say I have a little bit degree of entitlement as a patronizing customer, but in a lot of places in this particular type of venue, a lot of the management in that type of venue is not very different than the other people they're working with in terms of skill or what would work, you have a lot of multitasking going on, but part of that role specifically is to out people when someone actually is not because I've worked in that field before. Some people might sense what type of work I'm talking about, but a lot of these atmospheres you have, like in the United States, you have a lot of we don't have a very blatant class structure. We do have deep issues of class and class conflict in the United States, but a lot of it's not overt and clearly defined as other cultures, and that might work for us and against us, because in other cultures you may be more locked into a class and there's more difficulty to go to different degrees of class and what privilege would come with that. But in the United States, it's more open-ended, but also a little bit more ambivalent, in that there can be more conflict about, oh, you think you're this, you're trying to talk like this, you're trying to sound like this, or you're trying to read this. So it's not, you have a little bit of you have things that go, that's called implicit, when it's understood but it's not said, it's implicit. So you have a lot of implicit bias and implicit class dynamics in the United States, and also you have some implicit prejudice, and also and then going back, some of that history is still with us, and it actually plays out in situations where some of the implicit history and also the present implicit standing and privilege and entitlement is at play, and it can come to a head sometimes when we're not aware of how other people are looking at us or how they're functioning. So in certain places, you have a lot of certain venues, particular type of venues, you have a lot of class, like these are places where people who appreciate themselves as a particular class of person, they come to congregate there, and it's still open to the public as it had been in the past. But if you are unique enough, if you are different enough, you can be something of a cannonball somewhere when you're not intending to be, and it doesn't fly over well, and you haven't yet actually breached something. You haven't. In fact, it can maybe be argued whether you actually breached a code of conduct or etiquette, or law. And those can intermingle, but some of these people in this role, it's their job to out someone, or to at least confront someone that doesn't go over well, because that's costing money now. And so you've seen some of these take place in the media in the past, but some of it, not all of it, but a lot of it has to do with generally, crudely, grossly, what's called white and black, and that you can have people of both of any appearance, of any ethnicity, but they can still be respected differently, similar to in the past of what was white and what was black, what was privilege, voting, reading, writing, entitlement, say so, and what was disenfranchisement and not that. And so you still have that same contrast of like how people are treated. You have a degree of that, and it's very, very subtle. But when it comes to a head, the implications and the potential conflict or circumstance or aftermath, or just even cost to us as people in terms of opportunity to socially and professionally, can be very big and in your face, and also very painful. So I had an experience like that. But what I meant to say is that so I experienced that reading that book about that, and that had actually been a book that actually that had been from a person that made things more tolerant and more open-minded and humane and equitable, just in terms of learning what you would like, praying to what you would like. And I hadn't been promulgating that book; it had been in my possession, but all I meant to say is that, but it does beg the question of, do we really have the rights that we're said to have, such as reading and writing, such as speaking, and then if we do or if we don't, it would likely come down to property, which is still a function of privilege and therefore status, like this white black stuff. But in that book, he says that to be wary around advice, because a lot of it is tainted and self-interested. And I want to add on to his statement, not to make appendage or a change to what he said, but to collaborate and conceive to collaborate what he said. I want to add that to be mindful about compliments, because sometimes compliments can be even sometimes people, they might feel like sometimes a compliment is, I don't know if there's an entirely genuine compliment. A comment, yes, but a compliment is a little bit different. So like I had a comment on this video, on one of my videos, I was like, keep up the good work. This is tough stuff. Keep it up. That's dope. But if people say, you're so this, you're so that, you're so that, that's not a compliment, and it's a little bit like kind of like like flattering, or like it can be manipulative, even a comment. So I got a compliment about my hands, guitar, and my speaking, and I want to say I want to ask to have good hands and speak well, but I don't want to be affected by that compliment.